Hey everyone, and welcome to In the Running, a podcast where we bring your local elections to life.
We're your hosts, Mae Dapkus and Olivia Self, two juniors at Mountain Brook High School.
We started this podcast to help inform voters on who is running in their local elections and what those candidates do on a citywide scale.
So, we're asking the real questions about their goals, values, and what they want to do for your communities across Alabama. This is In the Running. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to In the Running. I'm your host, Mae Dapkus.
And I'm Olivia Self, and today we're here with Mr. Wayne Rogers, who is the Democratic nominee for Alabama Secretary of State.
Good afternoon, ladies. How y'all doing?
You're good. How are you?
All right. Great to be here. Great to meet y'all, and going to enjoy answering some questions today and talking about my campaign.
Yes.
Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
First, we want to know a little bit about you outside of your campaign. Any hobbies you want to tell us about, interests, anything like that?
Well, mostly I'm just a family guy. I mean, I have three kids that were all born within 11 months. We call them the Irish triplets. But they're older now. They're 37, 36, and 36. I have twin sons. I have three grandchildren. I've been married for almost 40 years. Hey, Laurie. And but I have been a lawyer since went to law school, went to undergraduate school at Samford. I grew up in Thomasville, Alabama. Graduated high school at 17 in Thomasville, small town, southwest Alabama, Clark County. Actually, my opponent grew up about 40 miles away, over in a place just in the adjoining county over in Monroe County. And she grew up in a very nice house on an Annabella mansion and all that kind of stuff. I grew up mostly in a single wide trailer. So literally lived in a single wide trailer from the time I was 2 until I was 13. And finished as... did well in high school, got a scholarship to come to Samford, first person in my family to get to go to college, which was great. And graduated as a music major. I'm still a singer. I love to sing.
You would love
to
hear it.
I sing the national anthem occasionally for the Birmingham Barons. Next time I sing, I'll make sure I'll get an invitation.
Yes.
But then I'll sing the national anthem at a different place. I sing at church, things like that. Been in gospel quartets a lot of my life. But I love to sing. But then as I was finishing my degree, I was thinking about going on to be a professional singer, but I had always thought about being a lawyer, and I love elections. I love the law. There was a game, there's a board game. All the other kids are playing Monopoly or Risk or chess or checkers. I'm playing Landslide.
Never heard of it.
Have y'all ever heard of? You've never heard of Landslide?
No.
Oh my gosh! So if you love elections, you would love Landslide. You win the game by being elected president of the United States.
Oh.
So this was my favorite board game when I was a kid. Love elections, always been an election guy. But I decided to go to law school. Got married after my second year of law school, and then I practiced law. I was a litigator for 30 years. I litigated all over the state of Alabama, 66 of Alabama's 67 counties. I represented small business in court in 66 of Alabama's 67 counties. Lamar County, I need you someday. Someday I want to get appear in court. If y'all ever need a lawyer in Lamar County, make sure you call me. So practiced law for 30 years, was retiring from practicing law when Sheriff Mark Petway got elected in 2018. And about a month after the election, the sheriff called and said, Wayne, want to have lunch tomorrow? I want to talk to you about some stuff. And I was like, oh, okay, interesting. The sheriff elected wants to talk to me. What is going on here? At the time I was chair of Hoover Democrats. So meet with the sheriff the next day, and he's like, I want you to come to work for me. And I was like, what? What would I do? And he said, I want you to help work on elections. And I was like, yes, this is what I want to do. Mm-hmm. So I work for the sheriff's office, and for a little over 7 years now. And I work on election security, attend all the election commission meetings. You guys probably know the election commission is made up of the probate judge, who for probate judge place one is the chair of the election commission, the circuit clerk, and the sheriff. And the sheriff's office is very, very involved in elections. I also work on mental health issues, very involved in mental health. I won't go into all the details here, but there's been a lot of alcoholism and drug addiction in my family. Not in my children; they've all been fine. But my grandfather, my grandmother, my uncle, my aunt, a lot of folks, and so I've been very involved in mental health causes my whole life. So the sheriff had me get involved in that. I'm now on a national board for Crisis Intervention Teams International, which is the world's largest organization that trains law enforcement officers how to deal with people who have mental illness. So very involved in that. I'm also on the JBS Mental Health Board here. I'm on the board for the Addiction Prevention Coalition, things like that. I'm sorry, I said the wrong thing. Alcohol and Drug Addiction Coalition. And do some work like that. I also work on grants for the office, making sure that we have enough money to pay for the things we want to for law enforcement. And but I mean, as far as what I love to do, I love to travel with my wife. We just got back from a trip to Alaska that we took right after the primary. We love to go on Viking cruises in Europe. We went to China last year for my son's wedding, which we talked about a little bit before the podcast started, which was a fantastic trip. And we like to go visit our kids in New York and DC and Nashville is where they live. I'm also very, very, very involved in fantasy baseball and fantasy football. So,
for the people that don't know, for the audience, what does the Secretary of State do?
Okay, I'll put it in three broad categories. There's three things the Secretary of State's office does. The first thing, the most important thing, honestly, is elections. They run elections. The Secretary of State is the chief election officer for the state. All the various election commissions report to the Secretary of State. They run the FCPA system, the Fair Campaign Practices Act system, which means everyone who contributes money to a political campaign has to be reported to the Secretary of State's office. They help with the vote counting, and they make sure that every probate court has a hardened computer and make sure that all the voting machines are properly taken care of. Let me take that back. I erroneously just call them voting machines. For you people out there, they're counting machines. They're not voting machines. Nobody votes on a machine in Alabama. Yeah. Everybody votes on paper. And I mean, I'll occasionally get a call in my role at the sheriff's office. Hey, Mr. Rogers, when is the state of Alabama going to start voting on paper? My response is, when's the last time you voted? Yeah. Because we have been having paper only since 2006. 20 years we've been voting only on paper. So the Secretary of State is responsible for all the election system. We'll talk extensively more about that, I'm sure. But let me go ahead and tell the other two things. The other thing is, when you're registering a business in Alabama, you register with the Secretary of State. So it's a system where my wife owns two small businesses. She registered those two small businesses with the Secretary of State's office. If you want to name a business a certain thing, you want to name something Mae and Olivia Podcasts someday. Yeah. Well, if you want to do that, if you want to have a business with that name, you send something off to the Secretary of State's office that says, we want to name this Mae and Olivia Podcast. Has there ever been anything with that name in the state of Alabama? Secretary of State's office researches that, responds back, hey, you can name it that. Or you can't if somebody else has used it, that sort of thing. And then the third thing, and this is probably an underappreciated aspect, is the Secretary of State is the official record keeper for the state of Alabama. So essentially, and I think this is more important in the era of AI, is the Secretary of State's office is responsible for protecting the state's data. And we're always talking about AIs, getting this data, getting that data, getting access to this, getting access to that. The Secretary of State, the Secretary signs off on every bill that is passed by the Alabama legislature, every official act that's done by the governor. There's a line at the bottom for the Secretary of State's office to sign off. So the Secretary of State is responsible for making sure that the records are accurate, that the statute book is accurately printed out. Those things are all under the purview of the Secretary of State's office. Underappreciated, probably you don't spend a lot of time on that sort of thing. You spend a lot more time doing elections and businesses, but that is an underappreciated aspect of the Secretary of State's office, is protecting the data of the state of Alabama.
Interesting. Love it.
So you talked about your love for elections.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. So what inspired you specifically to run to be the Secretary of State?
It's all I wanted to do. I mean, people have been asking me, what are you going to run for 20 years? Mm-hmm. They're like, Wayne, are you going to run for this? You're going to run for that? And I was like, I love elections. Mm-hmm. I don't love campaigns. I don't love all politicians. I mean, I vote for Democrats, obviously, but at the same time, I love elections. I mean, it's what I have been doing. It's what I've been interested in. I have followed elections. Y'all, I know this is embarrassing to say, but every year, every time there's a presidential election, I still get me a printed out map of the United States in color in the colors. Okay. Like when when they call New Jersey for the Democrats, I color New Jersey blue with my little crayon, I mean, I know this is nuts, right? But I seriously still do that. I mean, I love elections, and I like working with elections. And this is the primary responsibility of the Secretary of State. And the primary thing that the Secretary of State's office will be focusing on into the future, as far as forward facing for what the public knows that the Secretary of State's office says, it's elections. And that's what I want to run. I got a call last year from some folks who were recruiting Democrats to be on the ballot, on the statewide ballot. We're like, let's contest every election, which you guys know we have the first group of 7. We're calling ourselves the Change Ticket, which is fantastic. Doug Jones at the top of the ticket as governor. There's 7 of us running for the constitutional offices. First time since 2010 that Democrats have filled all 7 of those spots on the ballot. But when I was being recruiting last year, someone called and said, Wayne, would you like to run for one of the Public Service Commission spots? And I was like, have you ever met me? I mean, like, you ask an environmentalist to run for a Public Service Commission. Ask someone like Sheila McNeil, who's interested. Not me. So I said, look, I'd love to run for Secretary of State. That's all I want to be. Yeah. There have been a lot of people in the history of Alabama who have thought, you run for Secretary of State, you spend 1 or 2 terms there, then you run for Lieutenant Governor. Wes Allen is a perfect example. Mm-hmm. He just spent 1 term as Secretary of State, and he ran for Lieutenant Governor. That spot was open. That's the move up. It's either there or it's Attorney General. And then if you win that, then you run for governor because you want to be governor someday, right? Mm-hmm. I don't want to be governor. Mm-hmm. I just want to be Secretary of State. Mm-hmm. This is what I like doing. I love elections. I like working with that. And I'm just very passionate about running elections. I also love the small business people of Alabama. I've worked with them for many, many years. And that's something I can help with as well. But mainly, I mean, honestly, bottom line, it's elections.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
All right.
And if elected Secretary of State, what would be your top 3 measurable goals for office?
So 3 things. All right. Number 1 are more people voting. We have spent too long in the state of Alabama trying to figure out how to stop people from voting. We need to figure out how to get more people voting. Mm-hmm. We need to have more hours for voting to be open. I mean, with 7 to 7, okay, that's 12 hours. A lot of states open at 6 and close at 9. I mean, you have 15 hours of voting. Or, this is a crazy idea, right? Why do we vote? Do you ladies know why we vote on Tuesdays?
I have no clue.
No idea.
Okay. We vote on Tuesdays because of 17th century farmers. Let me explain how 17th century American society worked in New England. This is when they started voting, right? So the farmers would all go to church on Sunday. They would go home on Monday and they would pack up their wagons. And on Tuesday morning, they would come back into town. And, May, you're going to bring your chickens and Olivia's going to bring her wheat and I'm going to bring my corn. And we're all going to trade with each other, right? On Tuesday morning, on market day. And at noon on market day, the white male landowners, who were the only people who were allowed to vote at that time, are going to gather together in a place, like a town hall in the middle of town, and they're going to vote. It was very convenient for them because they were in at market day. Tuesday is not a convenient day for 21st century Americans to vote. It's a terrible day for us to vote. We should be voting on Saturdays. Now, people say, well, you can't do that, Wayne, right? And to some extent, they're right. I mean, there's federal statutes that say federal elections have to be held on Tuesdays. But do you guys know there are multiple states that hold state elections on Saturdays? Federal elections have to be held on Tuesdays. But the state of Louisiana, the state of Texas, for goodness sakes, holds, if it's a state-only election, they have it on a Saturday. And they get a much higher participation. So I think finding more people to participate in elections, finding ways to make sure that people know when to register, know how to register, and honestly that a lot of people are not afraid to register to vote. I mean, we have many American citizens in Alabama, and I've talked to them, who are afraid to register. They're afraid to have their voice heard because they don't know what's going to happen to them if they try to vote. And we need to be encouraging more people to vote. Okay. So that's number 1. Number 2, and let me say, I can't do this by myself, but I would push for a policy that allows 16-year-olds to register to vote. Now, there are many people that I've talked to out on the campaign trail who just say, Wayne, go ahead and go for the whole thing, and let's just let 16-year-olds vote. Now, I would love to hear what you ladies think about that because people your age tend to think it's a great idea. And so what I have been asking people on the campaign trail, now I will say this. Good Democrats, okay, if they're over the age of 40, They tell me I'm nuts when I say that, right? They're like, you got to be kidding. Those people don't know anything about life. I'm like, you're 40 years old. What do you know about what 16-year-olds know? First of all. But I mean, I would love to explore whether we just let people, when you get your driver's license, you register to vote. And do you get to start voting at 16? Let's talk about that. States can go below 18. They can't go, like the state of Alabama could not say, you have to be 19 to vote in an Alabama election because there's a constitutional amendment, the 26th Amendment, says that 18-year-olds can vote in America. But you could lower that age. We could lower it to 17. We could lower it to 16. But at the very, very, very least, we should say when you get your driver's license, you register to vote. You don't get to vote until you turn 18, but you're already registered. And my point behind that is that people, when they're in high school, they're much more civic. They're much more social, shall we say. They tend to do things in groups more so. And I believe that people who are registered to vote become, if they get in their mind that they're going to vote, then they will build a habit that causes them to vote every time they are ever able to vote, right? When I registered to vote, y'all, I'm 64 years old. I registered to vote in 1980. Came to Sanford at 17. And the rule, for those who don't know now, when you turn 17 and a half, you can register, right? You can't vote until you turn 18, but you can register to vote at 17 and a half. For me, you had to appear in person before the board of registrars for the county that you lived in. So for me, I was away at college, 17. And the election, the presidential election of 1980, I turned 18 in September, but I was already at Sanford. And I had to appear in person on a Tuesday night between 7 and 9 o'clock. And I couldn't do it. I did not get to vote in my first presidential election. I am still mad about that today. It is 46 years later, and I don't like that. I still think Jimmy Carter would have won that election if I would have been allowed to vote, right? No, I'm just kidding about that part. But Ronald Reagan won, whatever. But they didn't let me vote, and I didn't. Had we had the system in where we're now, I could have registered at 17 and a half. I could have voted at 18. Would have been no problem. So I'll say two things: more participation in voting, younger people participating in voting. Those are two very big things to me. And the third one is going to be controversial, even among Democrats. I don't like straight ticket voting. Now, I wear a yellow dog on my lapel because if you're a yellow dog and you're a Democrat, I'm going to vote for you, okay? But I still don't like being able to mark at the top of the page that I'm voting for the Democratic Party because then those people didn't have to earn my vote. I want the individual candidate to earn my vote. And I don't want to just vote for a party. There are many Republican office holders to this day won their office because you can mark Republican Party at the top. We just for those who are not obsessed with vote counts and things like that. Let me just sort of tell you how this works. So the first thing on the ballot, everybody's always, we talk about the top of the ticket, right? Well, the top of the ticket in Alabama is not the governor's race. It's not the president's race. It's the party. Mm. You can just vote that. And do you guys know how many Alabamians actually cast straight party votes?
Probably a lot, yeah.
Wait.
You want to take a guess what percentage?
Ooh. Okay, I'm going to say like
50 something.
I was hoping lower, like 30%.
You're both too low. 68.5% of Alabamians never mark one single candidate on the ballot. They only mark the party. Thus, if you're a member of the Democratic Party, you're a member of the Republican Party, you get that vote. And if we have fewer Democrats on the ballot, fewer Democrats get the vote because you don't have a Democrat on the ballot. They don't get the vote because you just mark the party at the top. There are only 6 states that still even allow this. 44 states have outlawed it. And the reason they outlawed it is because the individual candidate doesn't have to earn your vote. And we should not be allowing straight party voting. As much as I would actually vote for all the Democrats who I know, that would be great. But I want to vote for the candidate. I don't want to vote for the party. And I don't think anyone should be allowed to do that because it just makes elections. When I was in college, the 140 members of the Alabama legislature, 105 members of the House, 35 members of the Senate, all 140 of them were Democrats. 0 Republicans. Now, that stayed that way for a while. Then a few Republicans got in office. Then the state of Alabama in 2010, we went not just to a Republican majority in both houses, but because of straight ticket voting, we went to a Republican supermajority in one election cycle. From a Democratic supermajority to a Republican supermajority in one election cycle. That's because of straight ticket voting. And that's why the party in power tends to stay in power in Alabama for a very, very long time. Democrats were in power in the state for 140 years. Republicans have been in power for the last 16. Are they going to get 140 before it swaps back? They might with straight ticket voting. It's just not fair, and it allows the people who are in power to stay in power because they don't have to earn your vote. They just have to be a member of the party.
So how will you ensure that elections are fair and transparent for all Alabamians?
Okay, so the interesting part about that question, May, is that elections really are fair and transparent for all Alabamians. It's so funny because people don't show up, but I do. I'm always there. I mean, every election commission meeting is public. By law, it has to be. They don't allow you to have an election commission meeting behind closed doors. So, and this is what I want to say is like elections in Alabama. Look, I've only been one county, Jefferson County. I know. I've never been to, but I know people who have been to all the others because I was chair of the Jefferson County Democratic Party. So I have all this network of folks and they all attend. Every time there's a meeting like that, Republicans are looking at what Democrats are doing. Democrats are looking at what Republicans are doing. And we have made it, I probably shouldn't say this. My wife is going to fuss at me for saying what I'm about to say. Okay, I'll tell you this right now. We have made it impossible to cheat. The part that my wife won't like me saying is, and I know people who used to cheat. I mean, there are people who will admit to me, yeah, we used to cheat all the time. You can't do it anymore. There are people who still would if they were given the opportunity. There's no opportunity. We have done a really good job, and I will give Republicans credit. Largely, a lot of it is their policies that have made it really impossible for people to cheat, and I'm fine with that. I mean, I think we follow the policies that we have now. You can't tap into the counting machines. You can't tap into the poll pads. There's just no way to get into these things. So we do a really good job in Alabama of making sure that the votes are counted properly, that they're counted well. Paper ballots are definitely the right way to go. I don't like voting machines, especially as AI and more computer technology allows people to interfere with those things. Just vote on paper, hold on to the paper. I've been involved in recounts, all the stuff, and you've got the paper. So we do a really good job of that. What I would do is ensure that system stays in place, ensure that the probate judges get proper oversight, that they are properly trained, and that they are, this is very key, providing proper training to the chief election officers and all the election people who are working there to make sure the system that we have fought really hard and done a really good job of putting together a system that doesn't allow cheating, and we just keep that system going.
Great. And continuing on about like fair and transparent elections, what do you think about the recent redistricting that has happened?
Well, I think that it takes away the voice of many black voters in Alabama. I think that was, it's been litigated, and I know Evan Milligan, he's a friend of mine, great guy, the lead plaintiff in the Milligan case. The Milligan case was rightly decided in the first instance, and for the Supreme Court to essentially come back, 2 years later and say, well, we were wrong on that, What I don't like, Olivia, about that decision is that it appears to me that as many years as Republicans have accused Democratic judges of being activists, the activists now are very clearly the Republican judges because, they didn't even pretend. They just said, hey, the Voting Rights Act says what the Voting Rights says, but it's, that was passed in 1965. That was 60 years ago. Those rules don't really apply anymore. Well, okay, if that's the case, then pass a new act. Don't legislate and say the act no longer applies to Alabama or to South Carolina or to Louisiana or to anybody else. Apply the law as the law is supposed to be applied. I think people who don't study Alabama history closely don't realize the state of Alabama did not redistrict anything from 1900 to 1963. For 63 years, there was no redistricting done. Everything, and of course, what happens there? People are moving to Birmingham, but flocks. Birmingham was a 30-year-old city in 1900. By 1963, it's one of the 50 largest cities in the nation. So the city of Birmingham, the Jefferson County, got 6 new members of the legislature, 3 new state senators, when they finally did redistrict in 1960. So the one-man, one-vote principle was created at that time, where people in Birmingham at the time, their vote didn't mean much. There were too few people representing them. If you lived in Lowndes County or Clark County, where I'm from, your vote meant 5, 6, 7 times as much as the people who lived in Jefferson County. That's what we need to understand, is that the black voters of Alabama, which make up about 28% of the state, for them to have only one district where their vote really ever even means anything, it's just unfair. To basically take away the voice of those black voters, which is what this redistricting did, completely unfair. And I'll tell a little story, and this will be, I talk too much. You guys can tell that now. I'm way bad about this. It was when they did the redistricting in 2023. We had a day-long hearing down in Montgomery, and I went. I got there late because I had something else going on that morning, and I'm sitting in the back of the room, and they're talking about the 4 potential maps, one of which was the map that the court eventually adopted that was used in 2026, okay? They're talking about 4 potential maps, and, one group has this map, one group has this map, and I heard, y'all, I promise you, I heard behind me 2 interns for 2 Republican House members, and one of them looks at the other one and says, "Have you seen the real map yet?" So Republicans, literally, the map that we're going to use for 2026, they hid it from Democrats and rolled it out onto the House floor moments before they passed it. The Republicans had all seen it. It was none of the 4 maps they had discussed. It was a Russian show trial that day of, are we going to use this one, this one, this one, or this one? All 4 of which would have been acceptable. But instead, there's this secret map, and that's now the one we're going to use.
We're going to shift from talking about elections, and now we're going to talk about the other aspects, one of which is business. Yeah. So how will you support small businesses and entrepreneurs when in office? Okay,
so the biggest thing that I think the Secretary of State's office needs to do in supporting small business is to modernize and update the filing system. Now, it's been modernized and updated significantly from, having to do things on paper and things like that. So it is all electronic now. But having gone through helping my wife file things electronically in that system, it's a very difficult system. And I will say the FCPA filing system, the Fair Campaign Practices Act system that I have to file, and that every candidate has to file monthly reports during the campaign, that system badly needs updating. We need to hire some very smart IT people who will make this an easier system, easier for people to get their filings done quickly, easier for people to get their responses back quickly. The Mae and Olivia podcast, it takes too long for us to get those things back to business people. And the Secretary of State's office needs to be more efficient. They need to be more attentive to the needs of business. We need a major update in the filing system, in the electronic filing system, both on the FCPA side and on the business side. So that's one of the things that I would work on right away.
Interesting. Why do you think a lifelong Republican should trust you with their vote?
Because I want to be Secretary of State.
Yeah.
I don't want to be governor. My opponent wants to be governor. She's 39 years old. She wants to follow the path. She wants to spend 4 or 8 years as Secretary of State. Then she wants to be Lieutenant Governor, Attorney General. Then she wants to be governor. I don't want to be governor. I'm 64. I'm going to spend 4. I definitely shouldn't say this, but I keep telling people, I may just be the James K. Polk of the 21st century. So you guys know about election, you know what I'm talking about, right? Just do one term, do a good job, and then just go home, Just and now, and people tell me, oh, when you may love it, you may get in there, but I'll be past 70 years old by the time that second term is over. I might not want to do that when I'm that old. I want to go see my grandkids a little bit, But I want to be Secretary of State. I understand how elections work. I understand how the Secretary of State's office works, and that's what I want to do. And I would be an efficient Secretary of State. And think about this real quick. That one-party rule system, everybody's in the same party. wouldn't it be good to just have one person from the other party? I told y'all in elections, I've always got a Republican watching what I'm doing. And when a Republican's doing something, I'm standing looking over their shoulder. That makes for good government. This is why we have fair elections. So as Secretary of State, I can be the watchdog over those Republicans. The Attorney General would fit that role as well. My friend Jeff McLaughlin, wonderful Attorney General candidate from Gunnersville. He's running our Democratic nominee for Attorney General. The Attorney General and the Secretary of State would be the two positions where you are in a position where you can watch over what the Republicans are doing. Let's say a Republican is elected governor. Wouldn't it be nice to have a Democratic Secretary of State who is looking over their shoulder? Or let's say a Republican is elected Secretary of State. Wouldn't it be nice to have a Republican and a Democratic Attorney General looking over their shoulder, making sure that they're doing things right? Because when everyone is in the same party and the same class, right? They're all part of the same political class. They all came up watching the same videos. And, on the Republican side, they're watching Fox News. On the Democratic side, they're watching MS Now. Everybody's sort of got the same mindset. Isn't it a better government if you have people who are watching each other? I make sure that you're doing things right. You make sure that I'm doing things right. And the people get a better government when that happens. So I would say to Republicans, you elect me as your Secretary of State, and I'll make sure that the government's working for you and running things your way, not running things for the political class that rules that party.
Love it.
Okay,
and this is our last question.
Oh, wow. Okay. Gosh, that went fast.
And some might say the hardest question, and it might be kind of hard for you, too.
Uh-oh.
So,
Grammar
buckle up.
challenge.
In one sentence, why should someone vote for you?
Oh, wow. One sentence.
Yeah.
Can it be a compound sentence?
Well, now you just took up your sentence.
Oh, no.
I'm kidding.
We'll give you one extra sentence.
In one sentence, as your Secretary of State, I will be fair. I will be reliable. I will be honest, and I will help this state build a better neighborhood. Going back to my Mr. Rogers theme.
Aww.
Love it. And I love Mr. Rogers.
Yeah.
He's
Just made that connection.
Oh, he's one of my heroes for sure. I mean, he's such a great guy.
You kind of remind me of him.
Well, thank
now
you
that I
so
think
much. Oh my
about it.
gosh, you're gonna make me cry, Olivia. Goodness sakes, that's so nice of you to say.
That's a good compliment. We all want to be like Mr. Rogers.
Man, I know, right. And he very progressive guy, great guy who just lets everybody. I mean, I did when I was talking to my campaign people, I was like, what do I say? I'm just the nice guy who's running for something. I think people just need to be nicer to each other. They really do. We need to be friendlier, nicer, kind of a small town nice guy. I just try to be nice to everybody. So there you go. Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, enjoyed it very much.
Yes, this has been such a pleasure.
It's great.
It really has.
And thank you everyone for listening. And don't forget to vote on the general election on November 3rd.
Yeah.
And we'll see you next time.
Bye.
Bye, y'all.
Have a beautiful day in the neighborhood.